high school geometry, and I used to joke that I learned more about geometry from him than I didn't realize I didn't know. Try reading his paper and then giving him feedback and you don't know what kind of theorem he's talking about. But briefly, not only will this program enable a student user to improve his or her math skills, but it also enables the instructor to evaluate the student performance. So it's really well put together.
Hello, I am Chris Erlin. I'm a high school geometry teacher. And my capstone project was to revamp my entire high school curriculum for geometry and embed it in a Moodle module that addressed instruction, assessment, intervention using all the techniques we learned. It's a big project. Why is it an issue? Well, there's a stated need and a normative need. Students need to pass geometry. Pretty simple. In fact, what we've discovered over the years is that not all students do pass, and in fact, teachers spend too much time managing homework and details and not enough time truly evaluating learning. Secondarily, the information that teachers get isn't always authentic. Sometimes tutors are helping out, or think students are copying work. So I was looking to address those as well as providing students with supports for when they miss class or when they don't get enough information from their classes. The solution was to build an embedded module within Moodle, a learning management system, with asynchronous access. Dr. Farrington taught us about knowledge types or content knowledge types, in which case we could address the type of learning and specifically target how we're assessing it and how we're teaching it to address that skill most effectively. I had to build and amass content that supported the student learning, either my own or others, and then we had to enhance student opportunities for formative assessment, give them chances to practice it and demonstrate they know it with specific feedback. Lastly, with those identified learning gaps, we'd be able to better address their needs with differentiation, addressing the needs of every student rather than the class as a mass whole. I did implement it to high school. I had 5 classes of geometry, 3 of regular geometry, 2 of honors geometry. I also used 2 other classes from another teacher, total of 178 students for my program. I took a big hit. I aimed for the most important part of geometry, teaching proofs, as the unit of focus to model this. On day 0, we did a pre-assessment to verify that they didn't know how to do proofs before they took geometry. Day 1 and 2, I had about 2 hours worth of instruction that was completely embedded in the computer that I built. The requirement was 1 hour for this model. I built about 2 hours worth, wall-to-wall, 2 days worth. That's all students did, was enter the computers and go. On day 3, I used the data to create a warm-up activity that was differentiated for 3 different groups based on their recent content that I was able to pull out of Moodle. I can't show you the actual product because it has student information in it, so I had screen captures of it. It is broken down by unit as we go through it. When you enter the unit, let me go quite quickly here, you see learning objectives, and the learning objectives are presented in 2 ways. One with a calendar that has description and sequencing and dates, but I also have more specific content for each one that shows models of what they should see, as well as proficiency scales by which they're assessed, and the content types that we talked about from Dr. Farrington. Within the homework, which is of course a mainstay of high school math, you might remember, I did things that are very different here. Not only does it have the traditional opportunity to print things if students miss class, but there's also something of submission. I had students submit their homework online. They could take pictures with their phones, they could scan it in, and 2 things happened. One, this meant that the homework wasn't missing from their hands. They didn't have to turn it in and leave it with the teacher. Instead, they always had the original copy, and I just got a photo image. Secondly, and more importantly, once they submit it, it kicks off the key. It activates the key so they can immediately see their results. Look at my key that's worked out and compare it to see where their mistakes are, rather than having to remember the next day what their questions were. And then lastly, there's an opportunity to track submissions, so students get a better handle on what they've turned in and what they haven't, with little boxes in the corners showing them what they haven't done. My instructional supports were broken down into 3 categories. I did a Learn It, where we taught the materials. I did a Try It, which provided opportunities for practice, and a formative assessment to see if they understood it. The Learn It modules tended to be a variety of sources. Sometimes they were traditional note sheets. Sometimes they were guided note sheets or scaffolded documents they filled out. Sometimes they were kinesthetic activities like this puzzle proof. Other times I actually used multimedia, for instance, a screen capture of me presenting something on an overhead document camera, narrated, or it was actually a video. And I was even able to take some of those and make them SCORM compliant, which means embed assessment inside them. So as the students were watching this narration over a PowerPoint animation, it would interrupt them and ask them for feedback on what they were learning to make sure they're paying attention and getting out of what they're supposed to. For the triad, there was practice, which you might expect. It was traditional worksheets and things that we do in class and small group interactions. But I also built a lot into Moodle. So this is a quiz question that I built into Moodle that gives students specific opportunities to practice the materials that I customized and exactly matched my learning. That was a huge part of what I did. With that information, I was then able to get specific feedback that was timely on all my students. I would build questions, 7 questions for each skill. Each of these is a particular skill or learning objective I was teaching. And by having 7 or 8 questions in each one, I was able to customize it and give them opportunities to repeat it. When they get the answer wrong, it doesn't just say it's wrong, it tells them what they should have learned. So when they take it again, they actually get knowledge and actually improve their scores. And with that data, the teacher sees it immediately and knows which students are at risk and which questions are difficult. Based on the specific data, I broke it down into 3 tiers of instructional groups. The green knew the material, were ready for an extension. The yellow just needed more practice. The red needed some remediation. And then I tested them after those differentiated activities. The pre-assessments showed they didn't understand it, 14% average, 100% failure rate. They didn't get it before the testing, right? But afterwards, 90% average, 95% passed with a C or better, only 5% failed with a D or an F. And using the statistics, I was able to demonstrate that while a 2.639 alpha value was necessary to suggest that the learning was relevant and not due to random, I got a 42.87. Highly effective learning. So I got to rush through this. Compared to last year's, it worked really well.
More than a question, I have a comment. I really want to congratulate Chris for all the good work he did. I was very impressed with the result that he had for the pre and post test. And I encourage you to publish these results. You attend a conference. I did a mini K-12 conference. I think you should promote the wonderful work that you have done. And probably you can share it, right? Because there might be other algebra teachers who might be interested in this kind of
I think this will be a good establishment for the SITE conference, SITE.
Okay.
And I think they are now asking for submissions. So you look into that.
Okay, thank you. I think I need to build the rest of the modules out a little bit more before I take it public, but I can talk to you more about that.
We have 2 questions real quick while
Yes,
Brandon's
sir.
setting up.
Chris, what tool did you use for that? When you showed the SCORM compliant assessment, that
Camtasia.
oh, that was
TechSmith
Camtasia.
Camtasia.
Okay.
It's a great tool. Cheap, easy to take video and turn it into a SCORM compliant.
And then I think in the back first.
For the differentiation, how long was it taking you? Was it automated that you would reset those questions, or how did you put together for each student? Differentiation.
For the determining of who would get in which group, or the
Yeah,
actual?
like you showed a set of questions that you put together for that student. How did those come together?
I built all of those, and I would compile them into a quiz, and then students would take those independently. And because within Moodle, I'm able to say, choose one from this category.
Okay.
And then I had 8 questions within the category, so each time they took it, they get a different question.
Okay, so they were on the shelf and you could have plugged them in.
Correct. It was a lot of work, yes.
One more question.
Hypothetically, let's say the next year you were teaching 5 sections of algebra instead of geometry. How hard is it to take what you have now and adapt it to a new subject? Or say hypothetically another teacher at your school decided they wanted to go this route. What's the overhead look like?
2 different questions. One, I have other teachers using my same Moodle module now for geometry. I've got 3 teachers now. So using this module as another teacher is very easy. However, changing the content is starting over. I probably have 20% foundation, but building the content will be another 70 or 80%. Last thing before I go is I do want to thank my wife and children. This is a large impact.
Daddy, your daddy, huh? Okay. Thank you, Chris. That was great. So now we have Brandon Gaynor, and his topic is collaborating in groups and teams. What he has is a series of modules to help improve your ability to work effectively in groups or teams. And your ability to work becomes a definite outcome of this outstanding project. So if you don't know how to cooperate, pay attention. Okay.
Well, Dr. Strong gave my presentation, so thank you. All seriousness, good afternoon, people. And this first question goes out to people in cohort 11. A few months ago, I asked a question along the lines of how do you feel about working in groups and teams? But I'm going to pose that question to you all again now, specifically cohort 11, after 1 semester in the MISS program. How's that working for you? Okay, I got 1 person that gave me a thumbs up. So, about what I expected. So, as Dr. Strong gave a nice overview of my project is designed to, here's the overview of my project. Today I want to talk about the problem, potential solution, features of my product, some of the challenges that I dealt with, and the major takeaways. So to begin with, the key issue. Like it or not, you have to work in teams or groups. Unfortunately, not everyone knows how to work well. Group work or teamwork, much like many communicative skills, listening, public speaking, things that we take for granted but people don't really have a lot of formal training in. We mash people into groups and assume that they know how to play nice together, and then I don't have a picture of a mushroom cloud, but that's usually the result that happens. Sometimes teams work together beautifully well, like many of the groups in cohort 10, and other times they need a little help. So, the solution that I came up with, or at least one of the solutions, was a short course designed through Moodle Cloud, designed to teach some of the very basic concepts of group and team communication. I teach the class at De Anza College. I've taught it at a number of other colleges. So one of the big challenges of this project that I'll touch on later was I'm taking concepts from a course that runs over 12 or 16 weeks and trying to fit it into 1 hour of instruction. So obviously that's a very large scope. The way I found to manage this was 3 modules, much like Dan did, and a few of my other colleagues did. Introductory lecture using TechSmith Camtasia, interactive tutorials using Adobe Captivate, some quizzes to test knowledge, and should people need it, some additional resources. So I'm actually going to show the project right now, the product. So this is the Moodle Cloud site, and like Jan, I'll have the login information available to you so that instructors can send it up if you don't remember today, or you'll have hopefully access to my capstone presentation. So obviously I can't show you all of it, but each of it is laid out in 3 very basic modules. The one that I'll focus on that may be relevant to some of you, I really hope this one isn't relevant to you yet, but it's the conflict management module. So I'm just going to show a really brief clip of this one. Of course, it starts at the beginning. So, each of these modules begins with a set of prior assumptions. So there is an introductory lecture beforehand. If someone wanted to just skip ahead and go straight to the Captivate module, just give a nice reminder that this assumes that you've done the other 2 modules, that you've watched the lecture on it beforehand. These do have branching navigation, so gives you the objectives, and at the start of each one, it allows you to decide where you want to go. So if you're someone that's maybe had a small group class before, you're a little bit familiar with this, you may be able to skip over some of the more basic concepts. For example, someone might just want to skip right to what are the different conflict styles and what are the ways that I can manage that. So each of these follows a similar pattern. So summing up the features for it. This was designed with MIS students in mind, but it can be relevant to a number of people. It can be relevant to someone that maybe you're managing a group of people and you want them to know a little bit more about group conflict. If you just want to introduce some very basic concepts, such as the group conflict roles, the distinction between a group and a team, the different conflict management styles. For some of these, I'm hoping that it provides a groundwork for how to set your team up for success. You notice that the conflict management module is the 3rd one. The second one is designed with strategies that you can utilize to start your team off on the right foot so that hopefully you never need the 3rd one, but not everything works out perfectly. For some people, it just simply provides resources for collaboration. So some of the additional resources had an additional link to simply, here are some of the different voice collaboration tools that you can use, meeting collaboration tools that you can use. And in the worst case scenario, let's say that you're an instructor and various groups are approaching you and telling you that your group is about to implode, direct them to my capstone project. I may have to do that for some of my students this quarter. So, instructional strategies. Gagne's 9 events of instruction, specifically eliciting performance and enhancing retention and transition. Mayer's principles of multimedia learning. I want to give a specific nod to Professor Challenger there because he had to suffer through many people saying, utilizing a female voice because that has more appeal to the audience. Remember that from the last presentation. So it's my voice throughout that, but it's a personalization principle. You saw a little bit of the segmenting principle in terms of how the modules are divided up. But the skip past the sum and evaluation section, because I'm running low on time. Challenges, I talked about scope. Testing is a big thing. I wanted to test it out with my students, but by the time that I got the project up and running, my small group students had moved past the point where these concepts were very unfamiliar to them. The big one, before I finish up on time, I was working with very abstract versus concrete concepts. So when it came to coming with a visual representation of what group work looks like, that one was really challenging. And that's one of the large challenges of teaching communication in general. It's not concrete, and there's a giant gray area. Am I up on time?
You're good.
Okay.
And believe it or not, my little kitchen timer started beeping in my bag, so it came back to life. You're good. You have probably 10 seconds left.
Okay, the 80%, here's the 80% rule. A colleague of mine that works at Google says this to her employees. If there's 20% done, there's 50% done, there's 80% done. You're never going to be at 100% because that assumes it's going to be perfect. So I want to see your work when it's at 80%. Cohort 11, I'm not saying turn out a substandard product, but if you get wrapped up in trying to get it perfect, you are going to drive yourself insane. So that is my presentation. Are there any questions from the audience?
It's a good little program if you guys want to get us a little login.
Available to the public?
Right.
Oh, Karen, Professor
Yeah.
Wilson.
I have a question for you. How willing are you to share this with students and so forth? I'd love to see in research how it works with juniors in the undergraduate.
You are more than welcome to it. It's through the Moodle Cloud, so they have the guest access. If you want an individual login, how many users do they limit you to with a Moodle Cloud account? 50? I can give you the course files. You can just export it to your own Moodle Cloud if you want to. So just send me an email. I'm more than willing to share it. And I'm willing to go back and tweak it too. Other question? Yes?
How did you come up with this idea about the teamwork versus group work? Where'd that come from?
The idea of teamwork versus group, or the idea for the project itself?
All of it.
So as far as the project itself, originally I was going to work on revamping a manual for incoming Miss students, and then in communicating with Dr. Sue, she mentioned that one of the things that seemed to be happening with more recent cohorts were struggling with working in groups and teams. As for the idea of teamwork versus group work, it's something I talk about in my classes all the time. People just use the term groups and teams interchangeably. And for those that are maybe not aware, some of the key distinctions between a team and a group is that teams tend to have clearer roles, have more hierarchy, and most importantly, if someone on the team does not follow a specific procedure, there's usually some sort of remedial action in place. Whereas with groups, people tend to be of relatively equal status, and the roles aren't as clear. So it's just a bit about people using those terms interchangeably. That's one of the things that people have to realize, is that just calling yourself a team doesn't necessarily make yourself a team.
Thank you, Brandon.
Welcome.
Very